A man's worth is no greater than the worth of his ambitions. If he seeks comfort, he becomes soft. If he seeks approval, he becomes a slave. True strength lies in self-mastery. Marcus Aurelius. The Stoics believed that a man is not defined by what he owns or how he appears, but by what he pursues. If his goals are shallow, his character will be weak. But if he chooses discipline over ease and reason over impulse, he builds a strength no one can take away. A man can have muscles, money, and status and still be weak, because weakness has nothing to do with appearance. It hides in silence. It lives in the choices we make every day, how we react, what we avoid, what we fear, and most of all, what we allow to control us. This video will reveal the 7 silent signs of weakness that many men carry without even realizing. These signs are not always loud, but they are always present. They quietly shape the way you think, speak, and live. And if left unchecked, they will destroy your potential from the inside out. But there is another path. The Stoics believed that true power comes not from dominance over others, but from mastery of the self. When you begin to recognize and eliminate these behaviors, you start to build real strength. Not the kind that impresses, the kind that endures, the kind that leads to respect, resilience, and inner peace. Let's begin. The Stoics had a very different definition of strength. It wasn't about physical power. It wasn't about wealth, fame, or dominance. To them, a strong man was one who could control himself, especially in the face of chaos. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Strength in the Stoic sense is the ability to remain calm when others panic, to stay focused when everything around you falls apart, and to choose discipline when comfort is within reach. Seneca taught that hardship is not to be avoided, but embraced. Difficulties strengthen the mind, he said, as labor does the body. In other words, a strong man welcomes challenge. He doesn't run from discomfort. He grows through it. Epictetus, once a slave, became one of the most respected Stoic teachers. He reminded us that no man is free who is not master of himself. That is the core of Stoic strength, self-mastery, not control over others. Many today confuse the image of strength with the reality of it, but showing no emotion isn't the same as having emotional control. Speaking loudly isn't the same as having conviction, and looking powerful isn't the same as being powerful. A Stoic man may appear calm, but inside he is sharp, disciplined, and unshakable. That is true strength, the kind that doesn't need to be seen to be real. Most modern men are not weak because they choose to be. They are weak because the world around them rewards weakness and punishes discipline. We live in an age of endless comfort, where pain is avoided, effort is optional, and distraction is always one tap away. Technology has made life easier, but it has also stolen something vital: the need to struggle, to endure, to grow. And without struggle, strength fades. Without discomfort, resilience dies. Many men today are emotionally reactive. A single comment, a delay, a rejection, it's enough to shake their sense of worth. They seek constant validation through likes, praise, and attention, and when it doesn't come, they feel empty. But a Stoic does not chase approval. He builds a life so grounded in principle that outside noise becomes irrelevant. The truth is hard but necessary. Most men are not strong because they have never been forced to be. This video is a mirror, and not everyone will like what they see. But if you are willing to look, really look, then something changes. You stop blaming the world. You stop hiding behind excuses. You realize that weakness is not a life sentence, it's a habit. And like any habit, it can be broken. Sign 1. Reacts. Instead of reflects, a weak man lives at the mercy of his emotions. He reacts without thinking, without weighing the consequences, without mastering the situation. Anger flares over small provocations. Fear controls his decisions. Frustration poisons his judgment. Instead of directing his emotions like a master, he is driven by them like a slave. In everyday life, this man is easy to spot. He argues over trivial matters. He explodes when challenged. He retreats when discomfort arises. He believes that his reactions are justified, but the truth is harsher. They reveal his lack of control. Marcus Aurelius taught, "You have power over your mind, not over outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. Power is not found in how loudly you respond, but in how deeply you understand your own mind before you act. A man who reflects before responding does not surrender his dignity to the chaos around him. Ask yourself, when life presses against you, do you respond as a master of your soul or as a servant to your impulses? Sign 2. Seeks constant approval. Weak man's sense of self is not built from within, it is borrowed from the applause of others. Every choice he makes is carefully calculated to avoid disapproval. Every step he takes is weighed against how others might perceive him. He abandons his principles for acceptance, fearing that standing alone would expose his inner emptiness. In the modern world, this weakness often wears the mask of ambition, chasing followers, status, and recognition, believing that external validation can fill the internal void. But it never does. Epictetus warned, "It is impossible to be free if you admire what is owned by others. When your value depends on the shifting opinions of the crowd, you are their prisoner." True strength demands that a man act according to his own reason, regardless of who watches or who approves. Ask yourself, if the world turned its back on you today, would you still walk the same path tomorrow? Sign 3. Avoids discomfort at all costs. A man who fears discomfort builds invisible walls around his life. He avoids the cold because it bites. He avoids the pain because it lingers. He avoids the challenge because it threatens to expose his weakness. But in shielding himself from every hardship, he also shuts out every opportunity for growth. Comfort becomes his master, and stagnation becomes his fate. Seneca wrote, "Adversity reveals the genius. Prosperity conceals it. Ease does not sharpen our man, it dulls him." True strength is born when we confront what we fear, endure what we despise, and persist through what we once thought impossible. Growth demands sacrifice, the sacrifice of safety, of predictability, of comfort. Every time you choose what is easy over what is right, you trade a piece of your potential for a fleeting moment of relief. Ask yourself, are you building a life of strength by confronting discomfort, or a life of regret by running from it? Sign 4. Lives in fear of failure. A weak man's greatest enemy is not defeat itself, but the fear of experiencing it. He paralyzes himself with endless hesitation, waiting for conditions that will never be perfect, hoping for certainty where none exists. In this endless waiting, he watches life slip through his fingers. Fear convinces him that action is dangerous, that mistakes are fatal, that risks are to be avoided. But the Stoics knew that real strength lies in action, not outcome. They believed that virtue is doing what is right, regardless of whether success follows. A man who fears failure abandons the pursuit of excellence before it even begins. He confuses mistakes with weakness, when in truth mistakes are the path to wisdom. The cost of inaction is far greater than the cost of falling and rising again. Ask yourself, are you holding your life hostage to an illusion of safety, or are you willing to face the uncertainty that every great life demands? Sign 5. Blames everything and everyone except himself. Weak man is quick to find fault everywhere but within. When life turns against him, he points to circumstances, to other people, to fate itself, anything to avoid looking inward. He believes that his failures are caused by others, never by his own decisions, never by his own weaknesses. This constant transfer of responsibility leaves him powerless, trapped in a cycle of resentment and helplessness. Marcus Aurelius reminds us, "The fault is in my mind if I am hurt by an external event. Strength comes from owning your responses, not from controlling the world around you. Life is unpredictable, adversity is inevitable, but how you face these realities defines who you are. A man who blames the world forfeits the chance to master himself." Ask yourself, when you encounter failure, do you look outward for excuses or inward for solutions? Sign 6. Pursues pleasure over purpose. The weak man lives for the next rush, the next indulgence, the next escape. His life is a cycle of craving and consumption, driven not by a higher calling, but by immediate gratification. He measures success by how much he can enjoy, not by how much he can endure or accomplish. The Stoics lived differently. They believed that true fulfillment comes from duty, not desire. Purpose demands sacrifice. It demands discipline. Pleasure demands nothing but surrender. A man who chases pleasure without restraint weakens his character over time, becoming a servant to his lowest impulses. Pleasure is not evil, but when it becomes the master rather than the reward, it destroys the man. Ask yourself, are you building a life shaped by duty and principle, or wasting it chasing moments that disappear as quickly as they come? Sign 7. Fear fails to master his own impulses. A weak man is a captive of his emotions and appetites. He is ruled by anger when challenged, by lust when tempted, by gluttony when satisfied is not enough. His life is not guided by reason, but by reflex, by whatever craving shouts the loudest. Epictetus warned, "No man is free who is not master of himself." Freedom in the Stoic sense is not doing whatever you want. It is having the strength to do what is right, even when every impulse demands otherwise. A man who cannot control his urges is no different from a puppet pulled by invisible strings. Self-mastery is the foundation of strength, the root of true freedom. Without it, every achievement, every relationship, every dream eventually collapses. Ask yourself, are you leading your emotions, or are they leading you? Weakness is not always loud. Sometimes it hides in how quickly we react. Sometimes it lives in our need for approval. It grows when we avoid discomfort. It thrives when we fear failure. It takes root when we blame others. It strengthens when we chase pleasure instead of purpose. And it dominates when we fail to control ourselves. These are the 7 silent signs of weakness that can destroy a man from within. But seeing them is not a defeat. It is the beginning of real strength. Recognition is the first act of courage. To look in the mirror without turning away, to name your flaws without excuse, to take responsibility without fear, that is what separates those who merely exist from those who truly live. A Stoic man is not perfect. He is relentless in his pursuit of mastery. True strength is not built in the absence of weakness. It is forged through the honest battle against it. If any part of this message disturbed you, it's because there is something inside you ready to change. That discomfort is not a weakness, it is a signal, a call to grow. Do not ignore it. If this video spoke to you, share it. Help another man recognize what you now see. Strength is not a journey taken alone. It is built together.